Hi everyone, this is CA Himanshu Singhal and welcome to Words and Wise. I'm starting FDD intro sessions and today we are discussing about the basic concepts in FDD. So let's get on to it. So we'll be discussing about enterprise value, equity value and the method of computing enterprise value, which are discounted cash flow and earning multiple. Let's talk about the first one. First one is, what is a transaction value? So in simplistic terms, it is intrinsic value of the business. Like what is the real price I'm willing to pay for a business, irrespective of company's borrowing, cash balance, accumulated losses, or changes in working capital. So if two businesses, one have a lot of borrowings and one doesn't have any borrowings, one have a lot of plant and machinery, fixed assets and everything, and the same business has everything on the rent. So the value of the business itself will remain same. It is irrespective of the assets that you're holding, everything else, just the core business. Okay, yeah. Now, what is the relevance of this? So it is the enterprise value is act as a starting point of a transaction, and on basis that you compute the equity value and so what in a transaction, what really happens is that investor doesn't really pay enterprise value while acquiring a company. So what they need to do is they need to make certain adjustments, which are net debt and working capital adjustment. Then you arrive at something that needs to be paid out to the sellers. So how do you compute this? You don't. It's not your job to compute the enterprise value, but in FDD you need to know how this is computed, and this will be required at various levels during the whole process of transaction. So that's why you should know how it is computed. Let's talk about equity value first, and then we'll discuss on the steps of computing the enterprise value. First one is what is equity value? Equity value is what really a shareholder receives in a transaction. So it is computed as enterprise value less adjusted net debt and variation from the normalized working capital. Okay, so like if you have X amount of enterprise value, you have computed this through various method, and this is the amount that is the value of the business. Okay, but now if company has some debt, so when I'm paying as an investor, when I'm paying to the sellers, I'll reduce the net debt amount from the total enterprise value to compute the amount that I should be paying to the sellers. Also, it is quite possible that investor has taken the benefit of changes in working capital. For example, they may push the debtors and ask for by giving them discounts or anything else, and try to get the maximum cash out of the business and go away with the cash. Thus, when I acquire the business and when I enter the business, I will have significantly reduced amount of cash. That would be very unfair. So as a general practice, what an investor does is, he from the enterprise value, the adjusted net debt means borrowings less any cash in the business. That is what we reduce from the enterprise value. And the second is normalized working capital. So what is the actual working capital on the closing date? I'll reduce the normalized working capital from it, and any impact of this will be considered as an adjustment. For example, if you run a business, if to run this particular business, you require X amount of working capital. That is called as normalized working capital. But because of seasonal fluctuations, one-time items and other stuff, it is quite possible that as on the closing date, your working capital is significantly higher or lower. So while acquiring on the closing date, the differential of what should be the working capital and what is the real working capital, that differential is adjusted, and then the equity value, the balance remaining, is what is paid out to the sellers. Now let's discuss about the methods of computing enterprise value. First and the most popular one is the discounted cash flow. It's the easiest one. So what really happens is that you prepare a financial model. In that financial model, you estimate your future incomes and balance sheet, the working capital days, and what would be the other stuff, and then you compute the estimated cash flows. So, basis that cash flows, you discount all those cash flow to the present value as in today, and that's how you said that this is the value of the business basis cash it is going to generate over the finite period. So how do you define that finite period? finite period is something that this business is gonna run for next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So that's what I'm paying for. The equal number of years for which the business is going to run, that much amount I'm willing to pay. Okay, so this is generally range bound for a particular industry. It can be 5 years or less, or for a gaming industry maybe, because games and such technology stuff keep on changing on a rapid basis. So 5 year could be a benchmark, and 20-30 years for a logistic industry, because those industries stays, they have a very long life cycle of they grow, they reach a maturity, and they stay at a stage for a very long duration, and then they come to decline. So basis that, so we determine the finite period, or that is called the multiple for equity multiple method. These are this multiple is a common norms develop over the period. You don't need to really determine it. The industry, your clients or your clients or investors or buyers, they mutually decide what should be the this finite period or multiple of the transaction. Yeah. Now let's move to second method. Second method is earning multiple. In this case, what you do is you compute the average normalized earnings for this business for a year. Then you multiply that with the multiple, which was the finite period for which this business is expected to continue. For these multiples, there are industry benchmarks, but the real multiple is decided based on the negotiation between the buyers and the seller. If the buyer is more interested in buying the company, he will be willing to pay more multiple. But if sellers are more interested in selling faster and quicker and need of money, then the multiple will be lower. So this is actually decided basis the transaction dynamics and the negotiation between the buyers and the sellers. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please do subscribe.